What's up? How's it going? Welcome, guys, to another live stream. Please let me know if you can hear me well. The most important thing is the sound, and please let me know in the comments if you can understand me well. Hello, Frank. I hope you had a great day. Thank you very much. Please let me know if the sound is working well. It could also be that you already sent a comment, and it just takes a couple of seconds for it to come through, and I haven't seen it yet. Yes, I can hear and understand you well. Perfect. Hi, Frank. Sound is great. Thank you, Marlene. Okay, more and more people coming on. That's great. Sound is good. Awesome. Okay, good. So let me begin with what I wanted to talk about today. And as we're going to continue this live stream, more and more people going to come on, hopefully. Okay. So the topic today is how to do divination without tools, aka becoming psychic, because they're one and the same thing. Now, when you're using divination tools, it doesn't mean that you're not psychic. It just means that you're using kind of like a crutch, really. What you're experiencing internally in your own mind is a reflection of what's going on in your energy field. Okay. This is why when you, let's say, enter a new environment, the energy of the environment affects you. And through your energy field and your nervous system, you now have a different experience. So your thoughts shift, your emotions shift, and you experience reality a little bit different, right? So your nervous system and your internal experience is kind of like a sounding board, right? Just a little side note on how things affect you is really thought forms that exist kind of like on a mental plane or even in a more dense state than that have a certain quality to them, right? So when a thought form like that hits your energy field, it's not that you're going to experience the exact same thought. Not always. Sometimes that's the case, but you're going to experience the character of that. Okay, so let's say you're in a room or in a public place, which is usually energetically rather contaminated and chaotic. A lot of people there had maybe negative thoughts and they were emitting a lot of negative energy, right? Or the instruments, the technology, whatever, the electromagnetic contamination of the environment is very destructive and chaotic and all that stuff, right? So that creates very, very negative and chaotic thought forms. Now you get into that environment and boom, that energy is going to affect you. And now you're going to have your own negative internal experience and negative thoughts and negative emotions that are kind of like on the same frequency, but they don't necessarily have to be the exact same thoughts that the thought form was originally created with. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So this is more about quality and character. And when you're using divination or divination tools, rather, what you're doing is you're using the tools as something that you can focus on. Okay. But the actual work is being done by your energy field because your energy field, your aura, um, your mind essentially can be tuned into specific thought forms that you would want to interact with. Anything that happens in the physical world has an energy field around it. In fact, it is an energy field. Okay. So just like a person has an energy field, a certain situation has an energy field around it as well. Even things that have not manifested yet or have not happened yet in the physical world are already existing in an energetic way. So there's an energy field for what is going to happen in your life in 2 months. It's just not physically manifested yet, but it exists as an energetic potential. Okay. And when you're doing divination, you're, let's say, using the cards, you're focusing on the cards, however, or your eyes are focused on the cards. But what your energy is focused on, what your mind is focused on, it is tuning into that energy field that is the blueprint for what's going to happen in your life in 2 months from now. So it's like a radio station that you're tuning into. So, based on what I just said, I think it's very clear that what you need to get really, really good at is attuning to your energy body to all the things that you might want to interact with psychically. Because when you're tuned into that radio station, now your mind is receiving all of this information and you're getting internal images, and these internal images can be observed in the changes in the cards. You're going to get emotions, you're going to get a certain experiential quality that is of the character of what you're tuning into, you see. So, like I said, the most important thing in order to do divination and to be psychic is you have to be able to tune into different thought forms. And how do you practice that? How do you actually get good at that? You need to create all kinds of different scenarios in your mind, and you need to make them so strong that your emotions are moved by that. You need to be able to go up and down the emotional tone scale on demand. Okay, so what does that mean? Part of your magical practice, at least in the beginning, when you're developing your abilities, should be to intentionally create certain emotional states. The more that emotional state is different from the emotional state that you're currently in, the better. Yeah. So let's say you're tired and unmotivated. Through sheer will and concentration, you should be able to shift your emotions, and that's going to have an effect on your physiology and everything else. So you should be able to go from, like I said, tired and unmotivated to excited and really interested in a matter of minutes, and that through pure concentration, through pure will. And many people try to use NLP for that, okay? Which I'm not a big fan of in this context. Now, I like NLP and I know it works. It's not that I believe it works, I know it works, but in this context, it's not what we're talking about. If NLP is maybe not something you're familiar with, it's an acronym for neuro linguistic programming, which includes various techniques to reprogram your body mind complex. And one of those would be, for example, one of those techniques is, for example, creating anchors. An anchor is using the Pavlovian reflex to anchor specific emotional states through, you could use gestures, you could use various triggers. So, what does that look like in a concrete way? Um, Imagine you have a girlfriend, okay? And that girlfriend is in a very happy state, okay? Whatever they say. Let's say you want to anchor a positive state. So you're with your girlfriend and she's very, very, very happy. She's in a good state. In this moment, you could do this, okay? Or something similar. And then the next time she's happy, maybe she's watching a movie that makes her very emotional and very, very much in love with whatever, like makes it. If she's watching a romantic movie, for example, she would follow that whole story, and as she's following the storyline, and during the climax of the movie, she would have all of these emotions in her as well, right? So now she feels the emotions of love, and now you could use maybe the same anchor, okay? So what you're doing here is you are creating associations between a stimulus and an emotional state. This is what we call an anchor. So she doesn't have to know that. Her subconscious is picking that up. Whenever she's feeling good, let's say she feels love, she feels happy, she feels whatever, her subconscious picked up this. It was an association that she now has with it. Okay, maybe you've experienced something similar by, when you were listening to a song or something like that. Maybe you listened to a song and it reminded you of a good time that you had. Or maybe you listened to a song and it reminded you of the time when you were heartbroken or something like that. Either way, external stimuli can trigger emotional states. Very simple, very Pavlovian. And let's say you have created that anchor, and now on a new day, your girlfriend is maybe argumentative or uncooperative, or she's mad for whatever reason. Okay, so you're in the kitchen having breakfast, and you notice that she's really not in a good mood. She's almost combative, like argumentative, right? Do this, and what's going to happen is her subconscious is going to move her closer to that state that anchor is associated with. Right now, if she's in a really bad mood, once is not going to happen. Once is not going to be enough. So you're going to have to use this like 3, 4 times. But then I guarantee you, she's going to start smiling. She's going to lighten up. She's going to feel good, and she's just going to not know why, but she just feels so much better. You know. And you can, of course, not just use that you can use that with your girlfriend, but you can use that in any context, really. Okay. Very simple way of let's say, influencing people, right? And if you're smart and use various other techniques, you're of course going to have a lot of people under a lot of control if you choose to do so, right? But the point that I'm making here is that this is something separate. This is something different, what I just described. Neurolinguistics programming absolutely works, but it's not necessarily what we're talking about here. I'm talking about actually um, psychic power. So, since this is a different topic, I do not agree with using, let's say, NLP anchors to get yourself into a certain emotional state. Uh, because it's not going to be the same as if you're using pure concentration and changing your own emotional states. Your will can choose and change your physiology. You know, emotional states are always connected to physiology. Okay, so if people doubt that mind is over matter, or the mind has an influence on the physical world, well, you just imagining something with sufficient intensity will shift your physiology. Your physiology is part of the physical universe. It's neurotransmitters, it's hormones, it's uh, you know concentrations of certain chemicals in your bloodstream. That's part of the physical universe. But the reason for that was a shift in your mental state that you can, through volition, through willing it into existence, create. Okay, so the practice of that, going up and down the emotional tone scale, creating scenarios in your mind at will, just through pure imagination, is fine tuning this instrument of your mind. Okay, so with practice, you're going to be very, very good at tuning into different stations, radio stations, as I said earlier, and this is going to allow you to tune into those thought forms and use the sounding board of your imagination and nervous system to experience the character of that thought form. You know, and in the beginning, you will use those divination tools, but then you'll be able to do that without. Because the in a sense, the divination tools are really a distraction because all that you really need is your mind and your energy to make that happen. You see, and this is then when you will learn to just receive. The magical abilities are projective as well as receptive. So we have both abilities. We can project thought forms, but we can also receive them and kind of like let them run through us. And this is what you need to do. The magical imagination is projective as well as receptive. Both of those are important and both of those need to be practiced. But experience has shown that starting with a projective imagination opens the channels faster. Now, what you will usually find is that there are two types of people that begin their magical journey. There will be people that are kind of like overwhelmed with internal images. They get too much and they have a hard time discerning about what's actually being received from outside of them and what's coming from themselves. And then there's the second type who doesn't perceive anything. So they're neither able to see the internal images that they create, nor are they able to receive anything. Both of those need to practice meditation because that is going to open up the channels. Meditation is what brings your mind under your control. And it is the cornerstone, is the foundation, is the most important part of your mental practice. And this is how it's done. Let's see. Yeah, you can definitely post some questions, guys. Okay. Because I actually already said what I wanted to say here. Most of it is already covered. And I would gladly answer some questions before I turn this live stream off. Can doing divination with demonic entities be dangerous? Well, yeah, obviously, sure. But it depends on the context. This is something I can't answer in the general sense. It always depends on what you're doing. It depends on the context. Divination with demonic entities is actually very common. It's what you would do it's one of the main purposes of evocation. Evocation is done to cause physical changes, but also to attain information that is very, very hard to come by. And yes, there is information that depends on the nature of the information, but some of it is best attained through spirit contact. For other information, you don't need that. You could use the cards for that. Um, you know. So it really depends. Can it be dangerous? Of course, it can be dangerous. Yes. You know. What's up, boss? Hope you're doing well. Well, thank you. I'm doing very well. I'm just a little tired because it's almost 2 a.m. over here. And after this, I'm actually going to go catch some sleep. Um, but yeah, uh, working with spirits in general can be dangerous, of course. It's just like everything else, man. Investing in the stock market can be dangerous. Uh, anything can be dangerous. Driving a car can be dangerous. Is there an entity that can allow me to live over 6,000 years? Um, believe it or not, man, anti-aging and the prospect of immortality is actually something that I've been studying very intensely, very thoroughly, and seriously since 2020. And it's still, um, and the more I study it, the more I'm convinced that we're going to get there rather soon. Most likely, it's going to be a question of who can afford it or not. But uh, I don't think we were going to need spirits for that. Could be that they can give us additional information, but uh, it's most likely going to be AI and large amounts of biological data collection. That's going to get us there. Why? Because And potentially, maybe I doubt that we need quantum computing for that, because that could help us to go through more simulations of different proteins and their effect uh, on the DNA and the telomeres and all that, right? But I think AI is going to be sufficient for all of that. We don't really have to go into quantum computing there. But once they can connect AI with quantum computing, uh, that's going to be crazy. Now, you know what's really going to be crazy? I've been doing some astrological research as well as working with spirits from the Uranus sphere. And what I found is that in the 2030s, right around the mid 2030s, late 2030s, there's going to be a new, should we even call it technology? But there's going to be a new material that's going to be the result of merging quantum theory uh, with Einstein's theory of general relativity. It's going to be like an amorphous substance that can be turned into any other substance. There's going to be an amorphous substance that can be turned into, let's say, gold particles or gold bars, diamonds, uh, any material that you would want. It's an amorphous substance that can be turned into any form of matter that you want. Now, this obviously, imagine what that's going to do to the economic system. And since it's going to remove scarcity of material resources. Now, at that point, we're going to have two choices. If we solve the energy problem, or let's say we don't solve the energy problem, meaning we're not going to have free energy at that point, that means that the people that control the energy and the information are going to rule the world. Why? Because energy is going to be necessary to turn that amorphous substance into the matter, and the information is important because you need to impregnate, or you need to imprint the information on top of this amorphous substance in order to produce whatever it is that you want. Let's say in the meantime, we also develop free energy, which is, let's say, I mean, free energy already exists, but let's say it's made accessible, you know, let's say free energy is made accessible to the planet. At that point, the information is going to be the most important thing. So a database with all the information that codes for whatever substance is going to be the scarce resource at that point. And the people or the organizations that control the information at that point are going to rule the world, you know. And we all know that there are already organizations that are collecting all of the information that exists, right? Um, so it's going to be an exciting time, but we're definitely going to see crazy changes, crazy changes. Like the Philosopher's Stone, yes. Now I'm still trying to figure it out and how to position. Uh, let's not talk about that. But what I'm trying to say is that this is what's in the making. I know it sounds like science fiction and like Star Trek and all that stuff, right? But mark my word, that's what's coming. That's what's coming. 2030s. The world has to completely transform, man. With all the new technological developments, it's kind of crazy. We're gonna live Star Trek earlier than what Star Trek said in the fucking movies. You know, it's not gonna take 2,000. It's not gonna take another 100 years. Okay, we're gonna live in a Star Trek world before the year 2100 for sure, which is nothing. It's another 80 years. You know, Star Trek was taking place in the 23rd century. We're gonna have it all in the 21st. Good. Another question. I think telomeres have it, man. Telomeres are very important. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Gaga Gecko. Maybe there are some entities that can teach me some highly advanced technology to live longer than normal. I don't think you need that, my friend. like let me okay, so if you want to go the conventional route, I would just go into Tantra and study those teachings. Tantra, high energy, you know, there are certain Taoist teachings as well, Taoist magic that can allow you to live longer, which is basically just learning how to accumulate your chi and um, keep it in your system so you don't lose energy. Not that much. And that's definitely a way to go. Taoist magic, I would look into that if you want to learn about that. But if it's actually about immortality, physical immortality, man, modern science is going to bring us that. You know, modern science is absolutely going to make that possible. It's just a matter of when. For sure. There's a good book on that topic. It's called The Death of Death. If you're interested in that topic, I think the author is Jose Cordero, Spanish guy, Jose Cordero. The Death of Death. Very good video. Very good book. They're putting everything on the cloud now, for sure, for sure. Yeah, Forbes. Okay, guys. So this was short and sweet, and I hope you got something out of this, which I'm pretty sure. And I'm going to just answer this one last question here. Based on your research, would you say utilizing stem cells plays a major role, if not the major role, in achieving physical immortality? No, neither one of those. Physical immortality requires a setting back the clock. There's during the aging process, there's the shortening of telomeres, which are the ends of the cell. The length of those determines kind of like the reproductive potential, or how long or how many times the cell can divide itself, right, or proliferate. But what's really important is the epigenetic changes that cause a change in the genetic expression of the cell, and that also determines apoptosis, which is basically the programmed cell death. And that uh, is determined by methylation. Methylation is a process that takes place in the cell where the DNA is um, altered through methyl groups, which are short chemical alterations that are put on top of the DNA. And based on that, based on the methylation, which is the result of the aging process, the expression of the cell changes. So what we really need is a way to return the methylation back to an earlier date, an earlier age. And if you can get that done at scale, meaning throughout the body and all cells, you can turn back the clock 20 years, 30 years. So that means, let's say you get that treatment when you're 60 years old, you turn the clock back to 30, 40, and then every 30 years you do it again. Do it again. And that would mean that you become literally immortal. And I mean, there are a lot of questions that arise from that, and a lot of people that are skeptical talk about thermodynamics and how that causes a problem. Well, this is not a closed system. A biological body or a biological organism is not a closed system. So thermodynamics takes care of itself, because the bigger system can deal with the entropy that has been negate it. You know, the opposite of entropy, which is basically accumulating chaos in a system, is negentropy. That's the opposite, negentropy. So if you cause negentropy within the system, which is basically the returning back to more order and more structure in the system, you at the same time increase the entropy in the bigger system. But a biological body is not a closed system, so it doesn't matter, you know. Like we're constantly interacting with the environment. We're taking in food, we're emitting heat and all that stuff, you see? So none of that really matters. So there's no physical limitations, no laws of physics that would prevent that, so to speak. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover today, and hopefully you got something out of this, and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.